Hey y'all, Russ here, RVerTV. Welcome. Check it out. We are just getting into the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina, heading down to the water. Got an early start, dodging thunderstorms. Weather's iffy. Hopefully it won't rain on me till we get out there to that island and back. There's so many things to see around Charleston, but I picked Fort Sumter. I thought it'd be just cool. Then this evening I picked a KOA campground. I'm gonna stay out here too. There's plantations all over the place. The KOA is actually part of a plantation. Go figure. Alright, should be down there to the water pretty quick. Alright, I'm early, but I wanted to get early, beat the traffic. There are big ships, the USS Yorktowns here, big floating museum. I just did a big ship to North Carolina up in Wilmington, so I'm running out of time. I'm gonna have to pick up the pace a little, so I picked Fort Sumter. Why not, huh? Because we're gonna take a little boat ride through the Charleston Bay. I think it's Cooper River or something like that. Flags flying. I'm sure this place is gonna fill up quick. They're just now getting opened up. Charleston and all this area is a metropolis. There is a lot of people that live out here. Just driving the roads to get here was busy. There's a Gold Star Memorial for the families. Very fitting. Got the big bridge out there that crosses Cooper River, I believe. There's the Yorktown. Huge old aircraft carrier. Alright, got a little bit of a wait. I gotta buy my ticket to get on the ferry. Then we're gonna go out and see that fort right in the middle of the water. It's supposed to be really, really cool. Can't wait. Got my ticket. They're gonna start boarding in about a half hour. So we should be underway. We're gonna go right past around that big USS Yorktown too on our way out, the lady said. Should be pretty cool. Well, got a good seat. It's a little warm and humid, but we got good shade here. You can buy drinks and snacks here on the boat.
While underway, please feel free to move about, but always maintain a firm handle, particularly when using the stairways. Keep your arms.
Hydrate, please make sure you have plenty of water and salty snacks, just to kind of keep you from passing out at the fort. They have water bottles for sale here at the snack bar, as well as a bottle and bottle refilling station below deck. And we also have a water fountain and bottle refilling station at the fort as well. Please take care of yourself. If you start to feel any symptoms of heat exhaustion or heat stroke, which include but are not limited to nausea, headache, lightheadedness, dizziness, confusion, profusely sweating, no sweating, being faint, sick to your stomach, heart palpitations, or your heart beating out of control, please let one of us know, either in the volunteer uniforms, ranger uniforms, or a crew member, so we can get you these. To be honest, you guys don't want to be here. You would rather be in the air fishing. You would rather be downtown shopping on King Street or enjoying the beach, or maybe even just enjoying anywhere but 87-degree weather with the heat index that puts you at 93. But through bad luck, blood, or marriage, you are on the boat with us because you're with Group 1 or Group 2, so thank you so much for tolerating us today. You're a destroyer that saw action during the Pacific Theater, earning the nickname the ship that would not die. It suffered multiple kamikaze attacks and still managed to stay afloat. The USS Laffey served our country up through the Korean War before it was finally decommissioned. And right beside it, you're going to have the USS Yorktown. The USS Yorktown is a World War II aircraft carrier that was used up through the Vietnam War, named after its predecessor, the USS Yorktown. After the original Yorktown was lost during the Battle of Midway, the Navy was quick to replace it with the aircraft carrier that you see before us today.
I don't know if you can hear, we're under a heat warning. So they said if I feel faint, they'd catch me. Now I brought water, I'm good. This whole summer's been hot. That's okay. We're heading to Fort Sumter. Yay. I'm not sure what they're doing. They got those big vacuum trucks there on the dock. There's an old jet. But we're going to take us a little boat ride here in the Charleston Harbor.
And the answer is no. The historic Ringo Banner was rated in 1814, 46 years before the start of the Civil War.
Mind your way. I can move up.
Maryland, as Francis Scott Key watched the British bombard Fort McHenry. That is why up until very recently, Baltimore had the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The second question that we get asked a lot is this where Billy the Kid is buried? You guys might laugh because it seems a little ridiculous, but Billy the Kid is actually buried at Fort Sumter, New Mexico, and then Fort Sumter, South Carolina. So if you guys have a spelling mishap, you might accidentally think you are in the Wild Wild West, but I assure you, you are not. And the last question we get asked a lot here at the National Park Service is, did slaves build Fort Sumter? And this answer is a little bit more nuanced and tricky because it is kind of. So while the slaves did not build the original Fort Sumter starting in 1827, they were responsible for every single brick that you are going to see once we get to the fort. Every single brick here in the Charleston area had to be made by hand in the 1800s. We did not have factories. We did not have mass-producing kilns. So every single brick that you're going to see today was made by the enslaved here in Charleston. But the fort itself was actually constructed by paid construction workers and paid day laborers. And right across the harbor, you can see that beautiful downtown Charleston skyline. All of those historic churches and all those historic buildings have the same story, where the majority of them were built by paid construction workers but whose bricks and building materials were supplied by the enslaved. So the story of Fort Sumter does not actually start in 1861. It actually starts way back in 1812, during the War of 1812, in which the United States and the United Kingdom was having a not so friendly disagreement about a territorial and a border dispute up north, talking about our northern states and Canada. As a result, we're going to see that the British just kind of come in and attempt to subjugate us once more. But this is the United States, this is America, we are patriots. We beat them once and we beat them again, showing them what's what. But it was that war that made us realize that our coastal defenses were not what they needed to be. At the time of the War of 1812 up in the 1820s, the majority of our country was along the eastern seaboard, making it very easy for invasion because our forts were few and far between. So the presidential executive order in 1827 that called for the beefing up of our coastal defenses, and that led to the creation of multiple historic forts we visit today, including here in Charleston, Fort Sumter. Fort Sumter was joining her sister forts, Fort Johnston, Fort Moultrie, and Castle Pinckney. Despite its name, Castle Pinckney, it is not a castle in a true fairy tale sense. There is no fire-breathing dragon, there is no pot of gold, there is no princess sleeping on a pea-infested Princess in the Pea style mattress. There is not a king. So when Fort Sumter began its construction around 1829, here in Charleston, it was a really big
This young lady is just talking and talking. She knows her stuff. Pretty interesting. Well, we should be out here in about 10-15 minutes.
It was supposed to be the most technologically advanced fort that Charleston had ever seen, even surpassing Fort Johnson and Fort Moultrie. And like everything with the federal government, then and now, getting the chance to build some time has changed based off of. We're going to see the Nebraska.
Quite a few sailboats are out there.
Roll and feed to the Missouri
Winds are pretty calm.
slavery only being legal.
Looks like their sails are going now.
It is now up to each territory joining the Union to determine.
Yeah, Charleston is such a big place.
We're also going to see in 1856 the infamous John Brown able to own slaves and slavery itself. So when a tall, awkward, gangly-looking man ran for president, everyone was extremely distrustful. After all, it felt because, like I mentioned, we had the rebellion at Denmark Passy, but back in the 1700s, we also had the Stono Rebellion, where there was another attempt at taking away. They were afraid that their lonely style of life that they've ever known was going to be ripped away, and they were angry at the idea that this tall man and his moderate view of we're not expanding slavery, but you can keep the one you have, did not allow them out to Fort Sumter, which you can see in the starboard distance, and met with Anderson. They were polite, they were jovial, they were very friendly. They admired Anderson for how honorably he served his country and how well he followed orders. But it was time for Anderson and his men to leave. He was promised safe passage up to New York. No harm would come to him or his men, and he would be allowed to leave in dignity. Anderson refused this offer because he did not have any orders from his commanding officers calling for the surrender and the evacuation of his men. He thanked the Confederates for their manners, and then they saw each other go. This obviously was not the answer that PGT Beauregard wanted, and he did not like being told no. So once again, in the early hours of April 12, 1861, at around 3:25 in the morning, the Confederate envoy evacuate no later than noon on April 15th of 1861. Again, this was not good enough. So the Confederate envoy gave him exactly 1 hour to evacuate before shots were fired. But this is Charleston, y'all. We are known for our southern hospitality. We were ranked #1 in the country for the best city to visit for a reason. And even then, in 1861, we were polite and we were hospitable, and we gave them an extra 5 minutes. So, 4:30 in the morning of April 12th, 1861, if you are facing the bow of the boat on the starboard side, you're going to see a tiny brown building over in the distance with a shrimping boat. That is the original location of Fort Johnson, and it was from that location of the Marine Biology Research Center, you see, where the first shot of the Civil War was fired at 4:30 in the morning, April 12th, 1861. It was a ceremonial shot. It was an exploding mortar, which was very like a firework, and it was fired by none other than a Virginian of all people. His name was Edward Ruffin, and he shot the ceremonial first shot, which alerted all of those militiamen and Citadel cadets along the harbor and beaches that it was time to start bombarding and firing on the fort. Anderson and his men spent the next 2.5 hours under assault and under attack, unable to really do anything about it. Because again, out of those 135 cannons that they had at Fort Sumter, only 7 of them were operational. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, Anderson finally told his men to return fire, and they spent most of the day and in the early hours of the 13th firing upon each other. Miraculously, despite the heavy amount of firing that both sides did, not a single human life was lost during the bombardment of Fort Sumter. The very first casualty of the Civil War was a mule, a working farm animal, off one of the beaches where he was unlucky enough in being caught and a cannon misfiring. However, here in Charleston, we went from being excited and celebrating this bombardment to being really fearful because we finally realized what was happening. And during a stalemate, during a break in the firing, a random private citizen from downtown Charleston took a boat out to Fort Sumter and met with Anderson, pretending to be part of that same Confederate envoy who had met with him earlier. This time he promised Anderson that he and his men would have safe passage to New York, that they would be able to do a 100-gun salute to their flag, that they would not be charged with any crimes, and they would be given food and water and shelter until high tide was able to take them back up north. By this time, Anderson realized he was in a losing position and that he would not be able to win this bombardment because he had already spent the majority of his ammunition. And so Anderson readily agreed to this man's terms. So you can imagine Anderson's surprise and the Confederacy surprise when about 2 hours later, the actual Confederate envoys came up to Fort Sumter to discuss negotiations of surrender, with Anderson going, no, we're good. I already talked to your guy. We're leaving right now. And it was at the 100-gun salute, ladies and gentlemen, that we experienced the first death of the Civil War. Private Daniel Howe was an immigrant from England, like with so many of Anderson's men being immigrants from England, Scotland, Ireland, Denmark, and Germany, where he came to the United States for a better life. And it was on shot 47 of that 100. Here in Charleston, that is known. It's just known so much as the water is salty and the sky is blue. Outside of Charleston, however, that little story probably is not well known because the same night that Anderson returned to Charleston to fly the Union flag, Lincoln, after a very heavy 4 years, finally listened to his wife Mary, took the night off, went to downtown D.C. There was a little play she wanted to go see called My American Cousin playing at Ford's Theater. And unfortunately for Anderson, a presidential assassination overshadows and outweighs the reunification of the South and the North. As we get closer to Fort Sumter, ladies and gentlemen, you're also going to notice a big black building kind of standing in the middle of the fort. That is Battery Hugie. It was built in 1899 to help support the United States in the Spanish-American War, and it worked as an intelligence base up through World War I and parts of World War II. As we get close to the fort, please mind your step. Everything is original to the fort for the most part, which means it is very rocky and uneven, and we do not want any rolled ankles. Continue to drink your water, please, ladies and gentlemen. Do not climb, run, or do any parkour on the structures at Fort Sumter. This is your ambulance, and this is as fast as we get, and I'm pretty sure our first aid expired like 2 months ago. And once again, the Rangers are going to give us a brief safety talk when we get there to just, oh, there was a dolphin. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the port side, which again is the left-hand side, you might see a couple of dolphins that have popped up and in and out of the water. We have about 250 Atlantic bottlenose dolphins that call Charleston Harbor home. My favorite dolphin, his name is Bob, and that's because he bobs up to the surface and then bobs back down below. The quickest way to scare the dolphins away from us is to scream, "Oh my God, it's a dolphin!" So please don't do that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to our history talk. In just a couple of moments, we are going to be getting to the fort. The pods normally travel in groups of 5 to 7, so don't be surprised if you see a couple of them popping out at a time. They're also on the starboard side from what I've been told. When we get there, the Rangers are going to give us a brief safety talk, talking about the risks of the sport as well as the things we need to pay attention to. When we get there, I'm going to ask that all of us wish our Rangers a happy Ranger Day. It is World Ranger Day with the Park Service, and we would love to celebrate them who are working so hard to keep our history intact. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fort Sumter.
See him? There he is. Well, got a few dolphins out here. Hard to see, the water's a little murky. See them pop up.
Also, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the fort, we do have a program here at Fort Sumter. It's called the Junior Ranger Program. Every national park site in the country has this program. It is free of charge. It is for the young and the young at heart. And it is basically a scavenger hunt style booklet where children ages 6 to 96 can do different activities and earn their very own Ranger badge, which means at the end of your tour, since it is World Ranger Day, we would also be celebrating our Junior Rangers. So if you are interested in the Junior Ranger program, you can come find myself. My name is Elizabeth. Or you can find my fellow volunteer, Nathaniel. He's up here front with me. Or you can find any of the Rangers, and we will get you started on your Junior Ranger hunt.
My goodness, it's small. Think they're out here during storms and everything else. Looks like they're putting in a new dock or something. All right, well, that was a fun little boat ride. That girl was impressive. She wasn't reading it, she was just saying it.
That'd be who said that would drive.
What is the Patricia
Or like
Kane?
Levi. Or maybe.
No.
I said.
It's really cool, huh? How do they steer it though? How do they, like what if something happens? Yeah. Wow.
All right, friends, welcome to Fort Sumter. And like I asked, on the count of 3, we are going to wish our Rangers a happy World Ranger Day. So on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Happy Ranger Day!
located on the boat. The boat will stay tied up for you the entire time. We also have no trash cans. We will even pack it in, pack it out. So please throw away any of that trash before you depart the boat. If you generate trash while you're at Fort Sumter, you'll have to carry that around with you.
Quite a little journey out here. You know, that was extremely informative, that young lady, all her information. Yeah, they're putting in new docks here. Big old crane. It must take a lot to keep this place up out here. Looks like a big wave would go right over the top of the fort, doesn't it? I guess water levels have risen the last couple hundred years. Probably wasn't this bad. Well, we'll explore around this thing, see what we can find.
We'll be walking around to answer any questions you have. Feel free to explore.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that is very official, blah, blah, blah.
So when you have a spider web in your nose, that feels lovely. Yeah, do that.
Well, I said that too.
All right.
Well, you gotta, at war, you have to get them in all angles.
All that old brick, and look at this, there's grass growing inside this fort. Surrounded by all this salt water. It's really bigger than it looks from the water, isn't it? Well, I'm just gonna sneak around, get away from the crowd. A lot of the old brick foundations. Who knows what they had stored here? Probably ammunition. Places for the soldiers. Gorge wall. Oh my goodness, that got blown to smithereens. Looks like. So they rebuilt some of that. That must be the wood up there. Ha. Couldn't imagine being stuck on this thing with bombs coming at you. It's actually air conditioned in here. Feels good. Some of the history of the fort. Original drawings and blueprints. The new fort called Sumter. A lot of those are drawings. Probably for newspapers. Look at the size of what they were firing out here, them big cannonballs and artillery shells. A lot of work went into restoring this out here. Well, some of this has been bricked over when they rebuilt it. Used to be big guns up here too, I guess. I was talking to one of the rangers. But wow, what a view, huh? Could you imagine being stationed out here? Oh, that's something. Even with all the people out here, it's kind of peaceful. Everybody's just kind of walking around, checking out the view of the harbor. Fort Johnson. There's all kinds of forts along the east coast here. When you Google it on the maps, historic sites, you see a bunch of them. That's how I found this place. Big old cannons, aren't there? Kind of feels like we might get some rain, thunderstorms again. Oh, look at this. Big jet coming in. What a view he must have up there. That was cool. all the ships that attacked the fort here from right out there. Float by and shoot bombs. Well, same view they had a couple hundred years ago. That's what they looked out to, the ocean there, back towards inland, Charleston, all of it. Could you imagine being down here with these cannons going off? That would be deafening. Talk about loss of hearing. Wow. Constant too. Huh. They sure had a lot of them lined up. You can see the new brick compared to the old.
How's it going, sir?
Good, how are you?
Alright.
Yeah?
See the big piece of metal?
Yeah?
Those are mortar shells.
Mortar shells, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
See, I think there's about 4 or 5 in this entire stretch of wood. So,
Wow.
it's kind of weird and interesting.
All the way through, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So, mortar technology, when they did all of this, it was kind of weird. During the time of George Washington, when the American Revolution was happening, cannons could only go a mile long. That's a long thing. But when they started rifling like they did their weapons, cannons and mortars could start going 2 miles. So, all the way at Fort Johnson, where the DNR station is now.
Before I give them money.
I don't blame you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, you can see the little yellow rope there. That's mortar shells stuck in the brick. This thing was under extreme attack These rangers are cool. They just walk around and start talking to you. Siege of Fort Sumter. That must have just been intense. Well, pretty quick I gotta get back on the boat. Otherwise it's gonna leave me. And you gotta wait for the next one, which is like 2 hours or so. Big old cannons. Pretty darn interesting. I would highly recommend coming out. Maybe not on an extreme heat warning day. But that museum up there inside was air conditioned, so you did get some relief if you need it. Very, very friendly staff and rangers. Very cool. But this thing is still standing after a couple hundred years and all the bombardments.
That is Charleston with the righteous judgment.
I watched a couple episodes of that. And then my HBO got it.
Well, start heading back. Gonna head out to that RV park once I get back to the mainland. For the price and this kind of experience, it's well worth this. If you ever get a chance, come visit this old fort. right, I'm out here at the RV park. Gonna take a little e-bike ride. Look at that, the clouds aren't so bad getting away from the water. This is a huge KOA. It's built on a plantation. It has all these irrigation canals, trees. And they've turned it into a huge RV park. They got trails I can go ride on. Oh, wow, look at that. Well, down here in the south, this kind of heat, humidity, and growing season, they could grow a lot of crops here. What was it? Cotton, tobacco, down these areas, I'm guessing. They have little picnic areas set up out here with tables. Not bad. I wonder how many acres it is here. It is huge. All growing over now. This is probably all open fields one time. Another picnic area. Oops. Closed off. Hopefully this gets me back in the park. I think it does. Heck of a day to forget my fishing pole. Big old lake here. This is beautiful. Well, I'm gonna keep trucking. For more information on my travels, be sure to check out my website, RVerTV.tv. There you can sign up for your newsletter. Putting one out once a month now. Also, we got a merch shop, Armchair Traveler Series, the Heck Yeah Travel Series, coffee mugs, hats, shirts, and pretty soon the 2026 merch will be out too. Coming up soon, this spring. Once again, it's RVerTV.tv, which I appreciate it very much. Yay, made it out of there. I thought I got lost in the woods. They got cabins here. Every kind of site, full hookups. See a lot of rental RVs on the road anymore. Class C's. Nice swings set up so you can enjoy the lake. Sun's almost going down. It's getting near the end of the day. Here's a few more cabins. See, you don't need an RV. You can stay at campgrounds right in those cabins right there in just a car. Even an old railroad caboose fixed up. Some of the sites have fire pits. They got a swimming pool here. This is a really nice KOA. Playground for the kiddos. I got basketball. And their clubhouse and check-in area was fully stocked. They got like a little mini store in there. What an incredible day. Taking that boat ride out there in Charleston Bay out to that Fort Sumter. Seeing all the historic buildings, everything. Well, in the morning, the wheels keep turning. We're heading down to Georgia. This is all bonus footage from last summer's 2025 travel. Just a few weeks, the 2026 season starts as well. Journey continues. Talk soon.